Have you ever hugged someone and for some strange reason, your heart whispered, "This might be the last time"? I didn't know it then, of course. None of us do. It was just a regular day, a Sunday afternoon in early October. The air had that gentle crispness, the kind that rustles the trees just enough to remind you summer's gone and fall has truly arrived. I had made a pot roast. My son David always loved my pot roast, said no restaurant in the world could touch it. He used to joke, "Mom, you should open a diner and call it only on Sundays." He said that every single time, and we'd laugh and I'd roll my eyes and I'd pretend to be annoyed. But I loved it. That day we hugged in the doorway. It was one of those tight, full-hearted hugs, the kind where you don't pat the back, you just hold. No rush, no distraction, just present. He smelled like cedar wood and laundry soap. Taller than me, strong, a man of 38, but still always my boy. He said, "Thanks, Mom. Love you." And I said, "I love you too, sweetheart. Be safe driving back." He smiled. Then he turned and walked down the steps. I watched his car pull away like I always did. Just like that. Just another Sunday. Just another goodbye. And that was the last time I hugged my son. If you're still here, thank you for listening. I know this isn't easy. Maybe you've been through something similar. Maybe you're living through it right now. Or maybe you're just here because something inside you feels like time is slipping too fast, like your hands are trying to hold sand. At this stage in life, we're not just looking forward, we're looking back. We're remembering the little things that suddenly feel enormous. We're thinking about what we said, what we didn't say, the calls we meant to make, the letters we never wrote, the moments that felt ordinary but turned out to be everything. And we're realizing, deeply, painfully, that some goodbyes were forever, even if we didn't know it at the time. That's why I wanted to talk to you today, because maybe you're like me. Maybe you carry that moment, the last hug, the last word, the last look, tucked away in your heart. Maybe it still stings, or maybe it brings a kind of peace, maybe both. Because grief and love, they tend to sit side by side, don't they? I'm not here to give advice. I'm not a therapist or a preacher. I'm just a mother. A woman in her 70s who's learned that time is not promised, but it is precious. More precious than we ever realized in the middle of raising kids, folding laundry, going to work, putting dinner on the table, trying to hold the whole world together. And I'm here because I believe in this. It's never too late to feel, to remember, to reconnect, even with ourselves. That last hug didn't come with a warning. Life rarely does. There was no dramatic moment, no sign from the sky. It was just a Sunday. And yet now, that memory glows like a lantern in the dark. I hold on to it. Not with pain, not anymore, but with gratitude. Because I got that hug. I got to see his eyes, hear his voice, feel his arms around me. That was a gift. When you've lived long enough, you start to realize that our lives are stitched together by the quiet, often unnoticed goodbyes. The hug before they went off to college, the phone call after the argument, the birthday that was just a card in the mail this year. You never really know which of those ends up being the one, but that doesn't mean we live in fear. That's not the point. The point is, we live aware, we live present, we live with our hearts open wide, even if they've been broken, especially if they've been broken. Because here's the thing I've learned, and maybe you felt it too. Our hearts don't close up as we age. They soften, they stretch, they become wiser, more tender, and yes, sometimes more vulnerable. But that vulnerability is not weakness, it's a sign of life. I used to think grief would harden me, that after enough loss you sort of armor up. But it's the opposite. Grief cracks you open again and again until finally you realize the cracking is the gift because it lets the light in. And now every time I hug someone, my daughter, my grandkids, even friends, I take a deep breath. I notice it. I hold on just a second longer. I say the words I used to assume could wait. I love you. I'm proud of you. Thank you. Because I don't want to miss my chance. Not again. You see, we grew up in a generation that was tough. We didn't always say the mushy stuff. We showed love by showing up, working hard, putting food on the table, keeping our kids safe. And that mattered. Oh, it mattered. But now we've earned the right to say the soft things out loud. I don't care if your voice shakes. I don't care if it's awkward. Say them anyway. Hug your children if you can, your grandkids, your neighbors, even your old friends at church. Say what's in your heart, not because you're expecting the worst, but because it's the best way to live. You never know when a small, ordinary moment will become a sacred memory. That hug in the doorway, it wasn't part of any plan. It just happened. And that's what makes it beautiful. So if you're sitting there right now thinking about someone you love, someone you miss, let yourself feel it. Let the tears come if they need to, or the smile, or both. You're not alone in this, not even close. We've all loved, we've all lost. But that love, it doesn't disappear. It shifts, it changes shape. It becomes something quieter but stronger. And that's what we'll keep exploring together. Because there's more I want to share with you. Not just about grief, but about healing. About reconnecting with the people still here. About rediscovering who we are in this season of life. So take a breath with me. We're just getting started. You know, after David passed, there were so many little things I remembered that I hadn't thought about in years. Like the way he used to tap his fingers on the steering wheel while he drove, always to some beat in his head. Or how as a kid, he used to hold onto my thumb instead of my whole hand. He said my fingers were too big. I laughed so hard at that once I nearly dropped the grocery bags. Isn't it funny how the smallest things become the biggest? And the truth is, I spent a long time wrestling with regret after that last hug. Not guilt exactly. I had loved him the best I could. But regret in the sense of wishing I had more time, more hugs, more Sundays, more pot roast and terrible jokes. But time, well, she moves forward, whether we're ready or not. There was one afternoon a few months later, I was sitting on the porch with my coffee, just staring out at the yard. The leaves had turned. That golden orange light was everywhere. It looked like the whole world was lit from inside. And I remember thinking, he would have loved this day. That thought didn't make me cry. For once, it made me smile. And right then, I realized something that I think is worth saying out loud. Love doesn't end, not even when the person's gone. It changes, yes, but it keeps moving, like a river, quiet, steady, sometimes overwhelming, but always present. And if you let it, that love can start to show up in new places, in your memories, in your laughter, even in your healing. You see, we don't stop being parents just because our children are grown or gone. That love doesn't expire, and maybe you felt that too. Maybe you've stood in the middle of a grocery store, holding a box of cereal you used to buy for your son or daughter, and suddenly your knees went weak. Or maybe you've walked past the shoe section and remembered the sneakers they wore every single day in high school, and how they refused to throw them away even when the soles were practically flapping. Or maybe it's more subtle. Maybe it's the song that plays while you're driving, or a smell, or just a feeling that comes over you at the strangest moment. And there they are, again, just like that. That's not your imagination. That's love, still working, still whispering. There was a time when I felt like those memories were too heavy, like they would break me. But now I let them wash over me. I let them fill me up. Because those memories, they're all I have. And that means they're everything. But here's something else I've learned. And this took me a while to understand. We can still create new memories. even with the people we've lost. I know that sounds strange, but bear with me. I started doing something a little unorthodox. On David's birthday, I bake his favorite cake, chocolate with peanut butter frosting, and I invite my granddaughter over. We play his favorite music. We tell silly stories about him. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we laugh so hard our stomachs hurt. But you know what? That day isn't only about loss anymore. It's about celebration. It's about love that keeps going. We honor the people we've lost by living, not just surviving, living, feeling, connecting, loving deeper. It's easy, especially as we get older, to close ourselves off, to say, well, I've already loved and lost. That's enough. But it's not, because our hearts, oh, they still have room. So much room. I had a neighbor once, Joanne, sharp as a tack, full of sass, always wore her hair in a perfect silver bun. She lost her only child when he was 30. For years, she wouldn't talk about him. She said it was too painful. But then, one Christmas, I brought her over some cookies and a little card with a picture of a cardinal on it. I didn't know then how much that bird meant to her. She just stared at it for a long moment and then said, "You know, Michael used to tell me cardinals were heaven's messengers. First time I've seen one in years." That night, she talked about him for 2 hours straight. She smiled. She cried. She remembered. After that, she started volunteering at a local school. She read to the kids every week, said it helped her feel close to her son. That's what I mean when I say we can still create new memories. We can still love forward, and that includes the people still in our lives too. I know some of us don't see our kids or grandkids as much as we like. Life's busy. Everyone's got their routines, their obligations. Maybe they moved to a different state. Maybe there's been some distance, emotional or otherwise. But I want to gently offer this thought. It's never too late to reach out. You don't need a big reason. Just send a message, call, say something simple like, "Hey, I was thinking about you today." Or, "Remember that time we..." It doesn't have to be profound. It just has to be real. And if there's pain between you, if things were said or left unsaid, it's okay to start small. A postcard, a photo, a memory you wanted to share, something soft, something kind. Because connection is never out of style. Not at our age, not ever. Sometimes we wait for the perfect moment, the perfect words, the perfect timing. But often, there's no such thing. What matters most is showing up anyway. Even if your voice shakes, even if your heart aches, even if you're afraid, show up. Because the hug you give today, it might be the one they remember forever. And more than that, it might be the one you remember forever. So let's not hold back. Not now, not anymore. There's still time to say what matters. Still time to connect. Still time to love. Boldly, imperfectly, wholeheartedly. Even now, especially now. I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me a long time ago. Something simple, but powerful. You're allowed to carry joy and sorrow in the same heart. I know that sounds strange at first, but if you've lived long enough, you understand it, don't you? Some mornings I'd wake up and the sun would be shining just right through the kitchen window, and I'd feel that warm peace. And then a wave of sadness would follow. Not heavy like before, just there. Like an old friend who visits now and then. And that's okay. Grief isn't a sign of weakness. It's a reflection of how deeply we've loved. When I think back to David now, it's not just about what I lost. It's about what I had. I had 38 years with him. I got to raise him, watch him grow into a man. I got to see his face light up when he held his daughter for the first time. I got to hear him call me Mom 1,000 times. I got to cook him meals, fight over silly things, laugh until our sides hurt. And that's more than some people ever get. So I hold on to that. We don't need to pretend everything is fine. Life at this stage, it's full of real, raw feelings. We've buried friends, spouses, sometimes even our children. Our bodies don't move the way they used to. Our homes get quieter, and that silence can be deafening. But you're not broken. You're human. And believe it or not, you still have purpose, even now. Even if you're not sure what it is yet. There was a time not long after David passed when I didn't want to do much of anything. I'd sit in the same chair every day, flipping channels without watching a thing. The house was too quiet. Meals didn't taste the same. And joy, real joy, felt like a stranger. But one afternoon, my neighbor knocked. She said, "We're short a volunteer at the community center. Would you mind helping out just this once?" I didn't want to, but something in me, maybe it was David's voice, nudged me to say yes. So I went. And do you know what happened? A little boy about 7 years old sat down next to me, looked up and said, "You look like someone's grandma." I smiled and said, "Well, maybe I am." He nodded and said, "I think you're mine for today." That was the first time I laughed in weeks, and that moment reminded me, even if I had lost my son, I hadn't lost the ability to give, to show up, to share love. Sometimes healing doesn't look like big moments. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's small things, making a sandwich for someone, holding a baby, planting tomatoes, listening to music from your youth, watching birds out the window. And in those little things, life begins to come back. We don't move on from grief. That's a myth. We move with it. We grow around it, like a tree that keeps reaching upward, even though it has a scar on the trunk. You might be feeling like the best chapters of your life are behind you. But what if they're not? What if this season, yes, this one, is meant for something just as meaningful? We live in a world that often forgets the wisdom of the elders. It rushes, it praises youth, it glorifies speed. But we are the keepers of memory, of patience, of stories, of real lived truth. That hug I gave David, it wasn't just about a moment. It was about a lifetime of love poured into one final embrace. And now I give that love away in different ways. To my daughter, to my grandkids, to people like you watching this video. Because if sharing my story brings even one person a little bit of comfort, then it's worth it. So I want to ask you something, and I mean it with all my heart. Who do you still need to hug? Maybe it's not a literal hug. Maybe it's a phone call, a handwritten note, a visit you've been putting off. Maybe it's someone from your past, or someone right next to you. It's never too late to reconnect. And while we're at it, don't forget to hug yourself too. I mean that. We're so hard on ourselves, aren't we? We replay old mistakes, worry we weren't good enough parents, partners, friends. But you were. You are. You did the best you could with what you had at the time. And you still deserve love. You still deserve peace. You still deserve to be seen and heard and held. Even now, especially now. You're not invisible. You're not past your prime. You're here, breathing, feeling, holding memories in one hand and hope in the other. And if you've made it this far in life, through all the storms, the heartbreak, the quiet nights, the joyful moments, then you are stronger than you know. So here we are, you and me, just two people talking across time and space. But maybe somehow our hearts are sitting at the same kitchen table right now. And if that's true, let me be the one to say this to you today. You matter. Your story matters. Your love has not gone to waste. And even if your last hug already happened, the love in it is still alive. It's not the end. It's part of the story, a chapter, not the whole book. And the next part, that's still unwritten, but you get to help write it. Let's hold on to that. You know, the funny thing about life is that we never really know when the last time will be. The last time you tuck your child in, the last time they come running through the back door yelling, "Mom, watch this." The last time they ask you for advice, The last time they hug you, and you don't yet realize it's goodbye. If I had known that last hug from David would be our last, I think I would have held on longer. Not tighter, just longer. Let the moment linger in that sacred, quiet way only a parent can feel. I would have taken a deep breath, let my cheek rest against his shoulder, and simply existed there, in that heartbeat of love. But life doesn't give us warning signs like that. It just keeps going, and so do we. And here's the truth I've come to understand, after years of tears, smiles, silence, and slow healing. The people we love leave fingerprints on our soul, not just memories, but imprints, marks that shape who we are, how we love, and how we live the rest of our days. And if you're watching this right now, if your eyes are a little wet, or your chest feels heavy, or you're remembering someone you once held so close, I want you to hear this from me. You are not alone. There are thousands of us, sitting in homes across this country, sipping coffee, holding photos, flipping through old recipe cards, listening to voicemail messages just to hear their voice again, praying that someone somewhere understands this ache. I do. We all do. And I want you to know that it's okay to talk about it. In fact, it's necessary, because healing doesn't happen in silence. It happens in sharing. So if you're still carrying your story quietly in your heart, maybe today is the day you let a little of it out. Tell someone what that last hug meant. Write about it. Speak it out loud. Or if you feel brave enough, share it right here in the comments. You never know who needs to read your words. You never know who's waiting for permission to cry, or smile, or remember. This space, this video, it's not just mine. It's ours. It's a gathering place for hearts that have felt too much, loved too deeply, and lost more than words can say. But even after the loss, we're still here. And that means we still have a say in how the rest of the story goes. There's a line from an old poem I once read. What is grief if not love persevering? That stuck with me, because even now, years later, I still love my son. And that love shows up in the strangest, most beautiful ways. A song on the radio, the smell of rain on pavement, the way my grandson tilts his head just like his father used to. Love perseveres, and that's something we can pass on. So here's what I want to leave you with, dear friend. Don't wait for the next funeral to say the things that matter. Don't assume they know how you feel. Don't think for 1 second that your words, your hugs, your presence don't mean something, because they do, more than you realize. If there's someone you haven't called in a while, call them. If there's a friend you haven't seen since the world got busy, reach out. If there's a grudge you've held, a silence that's lingered, a door that's half closed, maybe it's time to open it, just a little. And if there's someone you've lost, someone who feels so far away but still lives inside your chest, do something in their name. Cook their favorite dish, play their song, tell their story. Let that love move. Let it have somewhere to go. Because when we give love away, we keep it alive. So here's my small invitation from my heart to yours. If this video spoke to you, if you felt seen or understood or comforted, leave a comment below. Just a line or two. Tell me about your son, your daughter, your mother, your spouse, whoever that last hug was for. And if you think this video could help someone else, a friend, a sibling, maybe someone who's quietly grieving, send it to them. Let them know they're not alone. And if you'd like to hear more conversations like this about life, love, aging, healing, go ahead and subscribe. It's not about numbers for me. It's about connection, real human connection. Because we're not meant to carry this life alone. We're meant to share it, the good, the hard, the beautiful. You're part of something here, and I'm so glad you are. So let's keep telling our stories. Let's keep remembering our people. Let's keep hugging, in person if we can, in spirit if we must. The years ahead are not about fading. They're about shining in new ways, maybe quieter, maybe softer, but no less bright. You still matter, you are still needed, and you are still deeply, deeply loved. So until next time, breathe deep, love freely, and hug like it might be the last time. Because one day, it will be. But today is not that day. Today you still have time. And that, my friend, is a gift.